All right. Title of the video is My Experience with Lyme Disease, a Journey and a Cure. First, let's start with the disease that is colloquially known as Lyme disease. There are a series of disease symptoms in America caused by multiple types of Lyme disease, though typically it is associated with Borrelia burgdorferi. However, this varies depending on where you are in the world, because in North America they attribute it to burgdorferi, Mayoni. In Europe and Asia, it's Asfeli and Guarini. The typical treatment for Lyme disease is doxycycline antibiotics. That's what I took. It's called Lyme disease because it was diagnosed as a separate condition for the first time in 1975 in Old Lyme, Connecticut. I happen to live in Connecticut. One of the issues with Lyme disease is it's very difficult to test for. It's grossly misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed. You can familiarize yourself with some of the stories. Well, it should come as no surprise to you that when I contracted Lyme disease, I did my own research. And the first thing I did was I rooted myself in the conspiracy theories. So let's take a look at those. It's not a theory, excuse me. It is a conspiracy. The prime suspect we have here is Eric Traub. Let's get a picture. Eric Traub, yeah? All over the internet. Now, Eric Traub was a German veterinarian scientist and virologist who specialized in foot and mouth disease. He was a member of the National Socialist Motor Corps from 38 to 42. He worked directly for Heinrich Himmler, head of the Schutzstaffel, as the lab chief of the Nazis' leading bioweapons facility on Rheme Island. Traub was, quote, or as people on the internet say, /sarcasm, rescued from the Soviet zone of Germany after World War II and taken to the United States in 1949 under the auspices of the United States government program Operation Paperclip, meant to exploit the post-war scientific knowledge in Germany and deny it to the share it with the Soviet Union, excuse me. Now listen, the things that I'm saying should just set off alarms and ring bells. During the 1930s, he studied on a fellowship at the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. There's Princeton University, a Hegelian school, performing researches on vaccines and viruses, dealing with pseudorabies virus, lymphatic choriomeningitis virus, which is some type of encephalitis, and was part of the German-American Bund, a pro-Nazi German-American club 30 miles west of Plum Island. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. I'm going to say that a lot. Hold on. Excuse me, I had to cough. Let's look through some more things. The Institute at Lyme Island was a dual-use facility during the Second World War where at least some biological warfare experiments were conducted. In 1909 and in 1910, it studied foot and mouth disease. Where they studied biowarfare. Okay, one of his associates went to go work for Navy's biological warfare program. We're just going through. Some of the history of Eric Traub. Months into Operation Paperclip, Traub was asked to meet with U.S. scientists from Fort Detrick, the same fort that anthrax was created at, and also the cerveza sickness that's going around now, also originated at Fort Detrick. Go check it out. They closed it down. CDC shut it down months before. Check it out. Just do the research. Traub discussed work done at the Reich Research for virus diseases of animals on Lyme Island for the Nazis after doing work there for the Russians. He gave detailed explanation of the secret operation at the Institute and his activities there. The information provided the groundwork for Fort Detrick's offshore germ warfare animal disease lab on Plum Island. Dealing with the Newcastle disease in chickens. There's probably a link between the avian flu and Newcastle disease. For all I know, I haven't looked into it. Blah, 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 blah. Bioweapon research. Insects of all type, particularly the biting species. Let's just look. They tried, they wanted, like it's been done. There's a history of biomedical warfare before that time, during that time. We know he visited Plum Island. Conducted foot and mouth disease of cattle, which was his expertise. I mean, y'all could look into it. For all you know, this person led the groundwork for all the diseases that you know of that they spread fear about. I wanted to click on something. Oh, okay, here's Plum Island. Plum Island facility. Alright. This is Operation Paperclip. For those of y'all that don't believe me, it's tied to everything, not just bio warfare, psychological warfare, the fake space race, all the lies behind that. The Cold War was coordinated by Russia and the United States. The higher ups would meet in nuclear subs under the water, under the ice cap where they couldn't be detected. And then they would plan out what would happen for the rest of the time. That's how they did it. Go check it out. That's why a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the world, like all the wars, Vietnam War, Korean War, it's all fake, folks. The people who signed up for the military and died, that's real. But the politics behind it, it's all fake. It's all power grabs, money grabs. This is about Lyme disease, though. This is, hand, foot, and mouth, just showing that it's some type of, Oh, neurological disease, more or less, showing how encephalitis can be linked to it. It's inflammation of the brain. Let's go to next tab. So I do some search on Eric Traub medical journals. They're out there. You can't find much in terms of work on Lyme disease or his work during, but just to prove, not just to pull up a Wikipedia link, but to prove that he does work on, like for example, lymphocytic choriomeningitis. This is to deal with the lymph system, and we'll talk about all that going on later. How the Lyme disease is a master spy, I guess we could call it. He worked on equine encephalomyelitis. Okay. I don't have access to it though. Rockefeller University Press. Of course, they want me to pay for their stuff. Here's where Plum Island is located. I wonder if it brings up Google Maps. Let's do that. Just so y'all can get a feel for how this stuff happened. Excuse me. I don't know. I breathed something in, like hot sauce or something. I breathed it in. So excuse the coughing. But here is Plum Island. Okay. Now, this is Montauk over here. Wait, where's Montauk? Montauk. There's a lot of satanic activity out here. My guess is it's the furthest point out, so this is where the elite go. Easily traveling wherever they need to go, take their child slaves out there. There's all satanic activity in Montauk. Why do you think the Hamptons are where all the rich people go? So they could have access to children. Come on, folks. Anyways, it's called Old Lyme because here's Old Lyme, Connecticut. Okay, I'm located outside of New Haven. So, I'm knee deep in Lyme territory. Oh, did I? Nope, I did not disorganize the tab. What they think is it was, well, they say it was accidental, but I know it was on purpose. The United States government used its own citizens as a testing ground for their biological warfare. And people say that's ridiculous, but look, I've already talked about it. There's no such thing as the enemy, like there's no such thing as communism. It's just feudalism. They created the idea of communism to make you scared and fearful of equality. It's always the boogeyman, folks. And that's why they test it on their own people, and then when things go south, they just blame it on the enemy. Like, next thing you know, they're going to blame Lyme disease on China. Just watch. Just maybe 10 years from now, they're going to blame it on China. When they mess up, they just blame it on someone. Watch. So anyways, I got Lyme disease, and I'll tell you about that going on over here. But I did, I had to do some research. First thing I did was I took to the forums. So we'll talk about, I typed in every single combination in Google that you could think of. I scoured the forums, and that's where I did the groundworks for my research to get a chance to talk with and consult other people that suffer from Lyme's, and even doctors who are part of they're called LLD, Lyme Literate Doctors, who are part of the Lyme disease community, and they want to help their patients, and so they post there. And one of the people that I came across was Stephen Herod Buhner. And he's excuse me, written countless books, of which I have about 5 or 6 of them. I'd have to count. I have the herbal antivirals. I have the herbal antibiotics. I have the Lyme disease co-infections. In fact, I'm going to read from this book. I have the sacred plant medicine. I have this one, Anaplasma babesia ehrlichia. I also have his Transformational Power of Fasting book. I've read them all. It was fantastic. I think I have Sacred Plant Medicine. I can't remember. But I recommend, if anybody wants to get into herbalism, I don't have any video of me opening up the books. Look, just do it. Just buy them. They're cheap. Relatively cheap. $20 a book or so. I own them all. So stay with me a second, because I'm gonna read from this book in particular, and it's gonna be very quickly. If you happen to get this book, the one that I'm showing you right now, you can start. It's very easy to go through the book. If you start at page 17, it is the chapter called Mycoplasma. And I'm just going to read you the intro of Mycoplasma. I'm going to flip through a couple pages and then we'll get on with this. Mycoplasmas are most unusual self-replicating bacteria, processing very small genomes, lacking cell wall components, requiring cholesterol for membrane function and growth, using UGS codon and tryptophan, passing through bacterial retaining filters, and displaying genetic economy that requires a strict dependence on the host for nutrients and refuge. In addition, many of the mycoplasmas pathogenic for humans and animals possesses extraordinary specialized tip organelles that mediate their intimate interaction with eukaryotic cells. This host-adapted survival is achieved through surface parasitism of target cells, acquisition of essential biosynthetic precursors, and in some cases, subsequent entry and survival intracellularly. Misconceptions concerning the role of mycoplasms in disease and pathogenesis can be directly attributed to their biological substitutes and the fundamental deficits in understanding their virulent capabilities. That's a quote from Joel Baseman and Joseph Tully in a book called Mycoplasmas, Sophisticated, Reemerging, and Burdened by Their Notoriety. So basically, to put this, to get an idea of just how small a mycoplasmas are gram-positive bacteria, and they are tiny. In fact, some of them approach the size of the smallest genome that has been calculated to be theoretically possible. This is important. I know it's a little technical, but bear with me. Such is the case with Mycoplasma genitalium, a common pathogen of human beings. It is the smallest bacterium known. To get an idea of how small, 4,000 Mycoplasma bacterium can fit inside one red blood cell. In comparison, only about 12 Bartonella bacteria can. And red blood cells are tiny themselves, only about 6 to 8 micrometers in width. That's how small mycoplasmas are. Now, just to get a glimpse on how small and evasive and how little we know about mycoplasmas, the first mycoplasma was isolated in 1937. Therefore, on the grand timeline of things, it fits our biowarfare narrative. In 1950, a bovine cow mycoplasma was found. For those of you that don't know, there's a link between HIV and bovine leukemia cells. In 1954, the first urea plasmas were identified. In the 60s, there was enough evidence that these various organisms were finally understood to be unique bacterial forms and were put in their own family. Extensive DNA research has not begun until about the 2000s. And it was really until, let me flip through a few pages because they talk about HIV. Unless I missed it. Okay, anyways, basically until HIV was discovered, they really weren't like, so what HIV did was it increased the veracity of these mycoplasmas and the damage that they do, because HIV turned off all of the security in the immune system. And that's why the cerveza virus, that's why you people think that it doesn't exist or it's a scam. Y'all don't know what it's doing. It's just running in, turning all the switches and running out, and you think you're getting trolled by a friend. Anybody in college or in their post-high school years had a friend that would try and prank them? Well, you're not getting pranked, you're getting set up. That's why I tell you, that's why I make all these videos on fasting and healing and all that stuff, and that's why this video is very important. This information here in these books, and Stephen Herod Buhner's books, is going to be what saves you. Because there are people dying. I suggest people put on their masks. You're endangering our medical staff by not wearing masks. What's going to happen is you're going before an invasion and during an invasion, when they try and take out a country, they take out the engineers, the architects, the doctors, and the teachers, and then they wait a few years because the people aren't guided and they're not being healed, and then they let chaos run through. And that's why the jokes about, people from Poland being dumb, it's just because they were in the middle of two wars. And so time after time, the architects, the engineers, and all that were all killed. The country was razed, and then the people had to work with scraps, and so they were all like redneck engineers. Okay, so let's get on with this. Look, this book is very technical, and it has the most extensive list of all of the mycoplasmas. There's something like 100 co-infections associated with Lyme disease. Could be less, could be more. I forget. And in these books, there are many cures, treatments and therapies, herbal therapies, with an extensive bibliography of over 100 pages. It has the medical journal, NCBI, PubMed citations. You really don't need to look any further for any research than Stephen Herod Buhner's books. So let me describe to you basically in layman's terms how it happens and why it's... Okay, so here are the mycoplasmas. And here's a list of the mycoplasmas that infect our body. Well, these are the ones that infect humans here. Although... Anyways, we'll see about that. I don't trust medical science, indoctrinated medical science at all. So here's the cytokine. These are your immune system communicators. This is what's killing. This is what's causing inflammation in the lungs of the cerveza sickness. Is a cytokine storm or a cytokine cascade. So, in other words, what happens is, as infectious agents bump into cell walls. It delivers signals. Now, the Lyme disease is extremely smart. It can read the signals that the body sends, and it can decide to hijack the signals, or, I mean, excuse me, it can decide to hijack the signals. It lays in waits for another infection. It commands other mycoplasmas. It's in layman's terms, it's a general, but it knows when to lay in wait, and it knows when to attack, and also it can detect an abundance of antibodies or antibiotics in the system, and then it will go and hide. So when it knows it's outmatched, it will hide, and that's because it's a spirochete. Ready? Did I have pictures of it here? Here we go. A spirochete. You see that? It's a spiral. It's a corkscrew. It can embed itself into bone. It can embed itself into muscle, skin tissue, organ tissue. It can cross the blood-brain barrier. It can embed itself into the brain. In other words, when it detects antibiotics and antibodies, it knows to hide. Like when it knows it's outmatched, it will hide. The important idea regarding Lyme disease is the Jarisch-Herxheimer reaction. It's a reaction, and this is, I think everybody needs to pay attention to this. It's a reaction to endotoxin-like products released by the death of harmful microorganisms in the body during antibiotic treatment, or just during any sickness in general. Antimicrobial effective. So when it works, like successfully executed antibody processes, results in lysis, or the destruction of bacterial cell membranes, and in the consequent release into the bloodstream bacterial toxins, resulting in a systemic inflammatory response. Basically, the inside of your body is a battlefield, and all these soldiers are doing medieval hand-to-hand combat and killing each other. And the corpses are rotting and bleeding and dying and defecating, and it results in toxins. Now, Herxheimer reaction can be life-threatening, as they can cause a significant drop in blood pressure, can cause organ injury, eventually leading to failure. This a Herxheimer reaction essentially is what happens during any type of bacterial, viral, pathogenic infection. I want y'all to think about that. As you are killing off the living invader in your body, it is dying and wasting inside of your body. That causes toxicity and inflammation. So when you get sick and you reach for Tylenol, and you reach for Pepto-Bismol, and you reach for NyQuil, and you reach for Claritin or Benadryl, you're hurting yourself, and you're allowing the host in your body to live. This is important. So people ask, well, what do I do? What do we do if we get sick? What do we do in the case of Lyme disease? Well, we do what I did. And I'm going to harp on this again because I've harped on it before. Arnold Ehret was a German naturopath and an alternative health educator known for developing the mucusless diet health system. Ehret authored books such as Dieting, Detoxification, Fruitarianism, Fasting, Food Combining, Health Longevity, Naturopathy, Physical Culture, and Vitalism. In opposition to medical science that asserts that white blood cells are important components of the immune system, Ehret believed that white blood cells are caused by consuming mucus-forming foods and as waste materials poison the blood. Y'all can read about him. He has some funny views, but you have to understand this was late 1800s, early 1900s. Ehret was killed by a woman named Anita Bauer. There you go. This was the last person that Arnold Ehret was seen with. In case you're wondering, Bauer is the original name for the Rothschild family. And it should come as no surprise that the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Thomas Milton Rivers, who headed the infectious disease ward in 1922 nonetheless, he went to Johns Hopkins, another Jesuit Hegelian school, where he headed infectious disease ward, Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. Remained head of the Rockefeller Foundation, and he wrote the book on viral rickets, which, by the way, there's here's polio. By the way, don't quote me on it. Tick-borne spotted fever. Thought so. Thought I read correctly. Thought I remembered correctly. Wait. Okay, maybe I'm incorrect. Anyways, that's not what this is about. Well, tick-borne spotted fever. Would that not be correct? Whatever. Another day. It doesn't matter. Now, you can find the connection to Project Daylily that talks about the mycoplasmas found in all vaccines that the government purposely puts in there. They'll say they make 100 batches. They know that one batch will be infected with mycoplasma, and they'll use it as a test. I would be able to pull up some of the things, some of the journals, but I don't have access to PDFs. I downloaded by accident Internet Download Manager. It expired. I can't uninstall it. So now I have to go figure that out. But whatever. For those of you who think that I'm just pulling information from a hippie, well, you haven't read the books, first and foremost. his information on Lyme disease alone is stacks about a foot high, and it's highly medical from what you read, or from what I read to you. Well, this is Dr. Elena Frid, and should take a time to listen to a few of her interviews. It was years ago that I went through all of her videos. I can't remember what video to watch specifically. I'd say start with this one. This might be the one that I watched.
My name is Dr.
Yes, watch this one. She literally says, if this is the interview, she says at the end of this that if we change the way that we look at mycoplasmas, it will change the entire way that we view any and all diseases and symptoms in the body. And we'll get into that later. First, I'm going to make this about me and talk about my experience with Lyme disease, just so y'all know and understand how serious this stuff really is. So I have a fun video for y'all. For those that don't know, I'm a landscaper, and that's where I got Lyme disease from. And they put me on the lawnmower crew, but I didn't like it. I decided to go on the weed whacking crew. I didn't have one of these fancy segues, but we're going to watch this while I talk, just to give you all an idea. I would have to do something like this at the company I worked for. This is kind of cool if you ask me. We did condo units, and so units that we did were 50 acres. And we would go out in teams, and I would be running up the street and up the driveways. We would do driveways and front steps. And so I'd have to cover 50 acres in a day. And I would go through 3 gallons of water. My shirt would be drenched. And I would just be weed whacking the entire day. Just running up the curb, running down the curb. If you could imagine like 400 units, just like little multi-homes all over here. This is just open. But I'd have to do this. Long segments of curb, just like this. And it was the end of June. It was the end of June that I got sick. But I wouldn't call it sick. I would just say heat exhaustion. Okay, I've had heat exhaustion before. Did I lose you? I wonder if I lost y'all. Mr. Mission Control, was I transmitting through that? Because I know I got the buffer symbol. Anyways, just to recap, I would have to do, I got sick in the summer, and I would have to do huge condo units. 300 units, 50 acres. We'd do ton of them, and I didn't have a Segway. I'd be doing it on foot. And so when I got sick, I thought that I just had heat exhaustion. I've had it before. It was an aching migraine headache, the chills. I thought I was just dehydrated, so I rested. I remember the approximate date because it was a Thursday that I got sick. I showed in to work on Friday for a half day because it was raining, so we just did maintenance on the machines. And I was dying. I felt like I was dying. And so I remember as soon as I got home, I took the weekend off. When I got home, I took the weekend off. Well, no, I had the weekend off, and I took like the Monday and the Tuesday off to recover or something like that. And I remember because I watched the Women's World Cup. It was either the quarters or the semifinals. I can't remember. It might be because I'm watching this video. Anyways, the first symptom that I can recall, okay, was a numbness on the front of my tongue. And the reason being that I felt this weird numbness on the front of my tongue, or so I thought. Let me tell you, when we're landscaping, we got more weed than a Cheech and Chong show or the Cannabis Cup. So one of the kids had a dab pen. This is extract of weed. They take it and they heat press it below a certain temperature so that they don't decarboxylize the THC molecules, and it becomes a resin, highly concentrated. It's healthier than smoking the weed, and then it's vaporized in a dab pen. And somebody was cleaning their dab pen out, and they had some extra dab that wouldn't go in the pen because it was just like you cut a like licking the cake knife, okay? So I took this extra dab, and I know the science behind it. I need to decarboxylize it with heat, but I also know that it breaks down, and I also know that during the process of creating these dabs, they have to use heat, so there's a chance that there was some activated THC in there. Anyways, like a coke head, I took the stuff and I rubbed it on my gums and on the inside of my gums, right below my teeth, so that I could take my tongue and I could rub the front of my tongue along it and try and get some friction and try and decarboxylize this THC. I'd do anything to get like like a crackhead. Y'all don't get it. But it'll also give you a little insight as to why my case was unique. I had so much THC and CBD running through my body at the time. I think I don't know, because the sequence in which my symptoms got on were not correct. Anyways, I developed Bell's palsy in week 1. Real Bell's palsy, like this bad. I mean, I knew I had something wrong with me because I was eating cereal. And I was trying to chew and keep my mouth closed, and food was falling out of the right side of my mouth. But, ironically enough, the right side is where the weed whacker head rests. And doing these condo units, I would be not on this, so the weed whacker would be here, next to my ear, and loud noises can cause Bell's palsy. So I thought it was the weed whacker. And I drink from streams, so I was like, maybe it's a stomach bug. I did not get medical attention. It wasn't that bad. I was a healthy kid. I was still able to work. Granted, at lunchtime I was taking a nap, and I thought that was weird. So I worked for a week. Less than a week, because I went back to work on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. No, I can't remember. I think I went. It was off and on. I worked a couple days, then I took a couple days off, then I went back to work. No more than 2 weeks. And the reason I tell you that it's funny, is because, as far as I remembered, there was no skin rash. I did have a flu-like illness, including chills and fever, but no congestion, just chills. So I thought it was heat exhaustion, like 100%. Fatigue didn't set in. I had a headache. I did not have a stiff neck. No muscle soreness, no joint pain, no swollen lymph nodes, no sore throat. However, early disseminated Lyme disease, this is less than a week afterwards, it was vision changes, because things on my periphery were getting not blurry, but curved. Everything was rounded and curved. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like a fish lens, like a fisheye lens, like you know those cameras. But I just thought it was because I was wearing sunglasses and literally head down running around. Like, have y'all ever done the optical illusions where you look for 2 minutes and then you stop and it keeps moving? Well, literally, at the end of the day, I stopped moving and my vision is still moving. So I was just like, oh, it's normal. It's onset from heat exhaustion. There was no major red flags given for me. This is within the first 2 weeks. No heart problems, palpitation, chest pain, no rash that I could remember, but I had Bell's palsy. There was a few things that made me go and get Lyme disease. Now I told you I'm a weed addict. And I say weed is addictive. People who tell you it's not addictive, they don't smoke enough. What I had was vertigo and dizziness. If I smoked weed, I couldn't stand. My stomach would get upset. I'd feel like I was drunk, hammered drunk, without the memory lapse, hammered drunk. Like I had to lay on the ground and hug the ground and just lay on the ground. And I had some type of delirium where I would be laughing hysterical at the most unfunny things. And I was telling the most inappropriate jokes and laughing louder at my jokes than anybody. So I didn't have any of these stage 1 things. Never ever had arthritis or anything like that. The headaches were in the migraines were gone. Never had a stiff aching neck. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't have any sleep disturbances or insomnia, but that's probably just because I was working. Excuse me. Probably just because I was working 10 plus hour days in the summer. It's smoking weed. Just go home and pass out. Never felt any of this. The mental fogginess and the concentration issues, that was probably my delirium. The hilarity that I experienced was probably the onsettingness of it. Never felt any of the what's it called? Peripheral neuropathy. Never felt any of it. In the severe fatigue, I guess the fatigue was onset because I found myself needing to take naps at lunchtime. When I used to skip lunch, my whole thing was I would keep, my whole pocket would be filled up with $3 worth of trail mix. And when I would work as hard as I could until I got hungry, and I'd slowly eat that to curb the hunger, and I'd make it to dinner time, I'd go home, I'd eat one big meal. That was my thing. So I went to the doctor. I said, I'm worried. This is what was in my head. I could have Giardia, Cryptosporidia, or some type of brain-eating amoeba or something like that. So I went to the walk-in clinic. I answered the questions, and it was. She said, well, you fit the description for Lyme disease. And I said, no, I don't have Lyme disease. Because listen, I played soccer. I had friends that had Lyme disease. When I tell you that I could have a bug land on me and I could tell you it's a wasp, I could tell you it's an ant, I could tell you it's a gnat, and you better goddamn believe it that when a tick falls on me and crawls on me, it's like little knives like the fear that I had of getting Lyme disease, I knew the very second a tick was crawling on me, I knew it. It's just the intuition that I had from being in the woods all the time. So I can tell you that I only picked 1 or 2 ticks off me that entire season. And I showered morning. I showered when I got home from work. And if it was an early day, I would then go to the gym afterwards. And then I would shower after the gym. And I would check myself religiously. Never fall asleep with my clothing on. I would wear loose, baggy clothing. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the videos of my silhouette when I do my gardening, but I'm wearing oversized, baggy clothes that breathe. So it's not like it's tight clothing and they have places to hide. I was diligent. Well, at first I said I didn't have the bullseye rash. But in retrospect, I did. Okay, this is where it gets a little confusing, and this is where I'll admit I'm not entirely scientific. Okay? This is where I'll 100% admit that I'm superstitious, not superstitious, we'll call it conspirastitious. So listen, this is categorized. They say 70 to 80%. At first I said I didn't, it took me months, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even a year for me to figure out that I did have the bullseye. Because I'll tell you how I got the bullseye. We'll go to this post in it later on. I'll tell you how I got the bullseye. So, I was walking. Here's what I was doing. We were getting buckets of water to water a tree that we had just planted. A set of trees we had just planted, like 10-foot trees. And so we needed 50 gallons of water, and we didn't have a hose. I had to go find the faucet over here, right? But there was a set of hedges directly in front of it. So there was hedges like this directly in front of it. I had to shimmy my way along the hedges and past this utility unit that had housing on it, but on the top of the housing it had shingles, asphalt shingles. And I was going really fast, just working fast, right? And I cut myself right along the rib cage, the back of my rib cage, not on the side of my ribs, more towards the back where I wouldn't really see it. Right up here. I don't know if it was 6 inches, a 12-inch cut, but it wasn't a deep laceration. It didn't draw any blood, but it was red. It had tiny, like a microscopic scab from the blood clotting. Boom. I didn't think twice about that. The reason I didn't think twice about that is because if you saw my shins. By the way, when I weed whack, I don't advise you, but I never wear glasses. Never have wore glasses. Anybody who weed whacks long enough says they developed the skill that when a rock is going to their eye, they see it and they blink. No lie. Glasses make you miss stuff, and then it's annoying, and then sweat pours in them. I don't wear glasses. My shins are just pelted, like. I don't like. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a rock the size of a marble off the shin and cursed loud enough to wake dead people out of their sleep. But I had a cut here. I was like, whatever. Because, I say I go to the gym and I'm conscious of the way that my body looks. So I'd look at myself in the mirror, right? I'm Irish, Italian, German. My skin is fair. I'm always wearing clothing when I'm outdoors. We weren't allowed to go with our shirt off. So when there was redness around the cut, I thought nothing of it. Nothing. I didn't think anything of it. Who would, right? Like I said, I have fair skin and I cut myself. It gets red. Well, here's where I get a little bit conspiratorial. Let's see. It's not going to say it here, but the vectors they say ticks are the main vectors, but it can also be transmitted from mosquitoes, and it can also be transmitted from fleas, which I or my dog did not have. And it can be transmitted sexually and through the embryo. Look, this Wikipedia page is wrong. They've got the information wrong. There's a lot of good information on there, but it's wrong. There's a lot of, the way they word things is terribly incorrect. So here's where I get a little conspiratorial here. Because if you remember, I got it from the surface, a surface cut. Now, very well could have had a mosquito bite me, very well could have had a flea or something crawl on the wound, like a gnat. Maybe a gnat licked a wound of an animal and then went directly to me. I don't know. I don't think so. I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you. But then again, what you have to understand is that I could have touched it with my hands during the time of landscaping. I'm digging in the dirt with my hands. And this is where I get a little, like, because I'm not sure about this. And I want to harp on the fact that nobody's Lyme infection is the same as another one. Every single one is different. That's what makes it so difficult to catch, and that's why it goes undiagnosed. When I looked through the symptoms of tetanus, I had every single, look, facial palsy. I even had pain in my jaw, but it wasn't lockjaw. And I never had the convulsions, the spasms shown here. I never had muscle spasms, but then again, I smoked a lot of weed and even more wax. So I don't know. I don't know what I had. Because I really want to harp on the fact that Lyme disease is like the general of co-infections. All the books, healing Lyme disease and co-infections. Bartonella, Mycoplasma, Babesia, Ehrlichia, and countless others. So it's really important to understand that. Now, getting on to the symptoms and my recovery. Well, before I went to the doctor, I knew there was something terribly wrong with me because I did not eat red meat. I would eat chicken on occasion. But about a week afterwards, I would crave red meat, and I would just go to the deli all the time. I would go to the deli twice a day, and I would need a roast beef sandwich or cheeseburger or steak and cheese. I couldn't describe it. None of the B12 supplements worked for me, and I 10 dosed, 20 dosed, and had the best working ones. Remember, I worked in Whole Foods, so I understand what the best supplements are. Nothing worked for me. Had to be red meat. Like salivate. Like I know how Big Lurch felt. I wish I had a live audience that would laugh with me, because my jokes are just, I think the timing of them is perfect. Anyways, in some cases, there's people who, when they get Lyme disease, Lyme disease causes a B12 deficiency. B12 is bacteria that grows on decaying meat, or you can get it from mushrooms. There are some people, when they get bit by Lyme disease, it makes them allergic to meat. And this has to do with the cytokine cascade. Okay, Harold Buhner talks about it. He says, depending on the messages that your body is sending back and forth, it's like the Lyme disease can read your body's system, like hack into your body's defense system, bypass the McAfee antivirus in the perfect way, and then just bam, deliver the death blow. It's not a Mike Tyson. It's calculated. It's a Israel Adesanya. It's the style bender. So this is Michaela Peterson. She was on, that's Jordan Peterson's daughter. She was on the Joe Rogan show talking about how a carnivore diet fixed her arthritis. She doesn't have arthritis, folks. She has Lyme disease. She did not get an aggressive version. Mine was super aggressive. Like, it wasn't until about 2.5 weeks after it first took me out that I started getting the stage 1 symptoms, the sore throat. But I also developed peripheral neuropathy on that day. So I went to the walk-in clinic and I took the drugs just in case, but I didn't take them for the first like 3 days, 4 days, because I was so unsure. I was like, there's no way I have Lyme disease. And I didn't want it because I don't have health insurance, right? Not only that, but because it's for Lyme disease, health insurance won't cover it. No matter what you have. Well, I think health insurance will cover the test, but it won't cover the antibiotics. So I had to pay full price for antibiotics. Even if you don't have health insurance, the state will cover some of the costs for antibiotics. I had to pay full price for them. There's no support for anybody who's got Lyme disease from our health system. It's not recognized as a medical condition. So anyway, she's got Lyme disease. It's a different type of rheumatism, and her carnivore diet cured it, but she's going to be in an early grave from eating all that meat because she's pulling in more parasites, more mycoplasmas. She just doesn't know it. She's going off of she's going off of feelings and emotions, not any actual scientific data, as far as I can tell. Which is a shame because Jordan Peterson's smart as hell. I mean, granted, her getting rid of gluten, and that's another thing on top of that. She was probably gluten intolerant, so getting rid of gluten, getting rid of grain. You could read a book called Grain Brain, The Plant Paradox. Getting rid of that, human beings are not meant to eat gluten at all. Sorry, folks. Not at all. There's no reason to eat gluten. Just because you don't feel any effect from it doesn't mean that it's good for you. So this is my favorite crisis actor here, Bella Hadid, also known as Alex Israel, who was Adam Lanza's classmate, also known as, what was her name, Katie Foley, the brother of the James Foley scopolamine Batman shooter. Now, famous Instagram thought, Bella Hadid, daughter of a famous fashion mogul who has the same last name as the developer who wants to knock down 666 Fifth Avenue and put up a giant, an even taller metal phallic beacon of light. Can't make this stuff up, folks. I talked about this in my video. If they knock down a tower and blame it on Qatar, the feds are going to have to pull a dead body out of my house because I'm not going in for no questioning. They're not spiking me with scopolamine. Anyways, apparently Bella Hadid has, quote, an aggressive Lyme disease. And I didn't read her story. I just looked at this post. To understand the symptoms. Oh, let me explain to you how bad it was at the height of it. I went from a very strong kid that could work 6 days a week and then go in the gym 7 days a week and put in work. I was healthy. I wasn't eating gluten. I haven't drank alcohol since September of 2013. I never get sick. I have a deep understanding of biology and medicine, and I stay away from medicine. Like I said, I never get sick. My lunch, my breakfast is my breakfast was coffee, no milk, no sugar. All I put in it was maca and coconut oil and some honey. When I tell you healthy, I mean like not body fat healthy. Like I mean, that's not healthy. I mean like unstoppable. Never had symptoms at all, ever. I slept like a baby. Wake up. Uh, anyways, at the height, I mean, this is the list of all the symptoms. Let me see if I can zoom in for you. Okay. When I tell you that I would go to, I'd go to the market, and I try and order food. I'd just be sweating buckets, just sweating, and that's from the Jarvis Herxheimer reaction. My body trying to detoxify itself. The Jarvis Herxheimer, my body trying to get rid of that waste in my body, trying to get rid of it through any means possible. Also, I had crazy palpitations that I could hear. My heart rate was way off. When I tell you shortness of breath, I mean like just completely dead. My brain was gone. The things that I would do, I couldn't think of words. I'm an articulate person. I read books. Common words I couldn't think of. I couldn't finish sentences. Like every other sentence I would have trouble finishing. Uh, I couldn't engage in conversation. I couldn't look a person in the eyes and converse with them. I was always looking down or looking away. It was just weird. The most strangest feeling. I'll tell you. Uh, when it comes to weed whacking, there's the choke, there's the primer. The primer's the little bubble that you push. It gets all the air bubbles out of the tube. And the choke is what you do when it's cold, and it just to open up the valves and to put fuel in it. I'm telling you, middle of July, I watched my friend, well, my boss at the time, go around the property weed whacking with the thing on full blast for a few minutes. He hands me the weed whacker, like he turns it off to tell me something, and then hands me the weed whacker, and I start priming it and choking it as if it's 30 degrees out and the thing hadn't been run. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Another thing that I did, I went to the bank to put some money in the ATM. And I was sitting there counting the ATM, and one of my friends pulls up. I see him. I got the money in my hand, and we talk for a minute. I shake his hand, and then without the money still in my hand, I got the money in my hand, and I'm pulling out, and I'm leaving. And I'm like, what am I doing? That's the type of absent-mindedness I had. When I tell you I couldn't walk up the driveway to go get the mail without being out of breath, by then I was already on the whatchamacallums. Shit. The antibiotics is doxycycline. By then I was already on it, so it was doing its work. And if I did not take the doxycycline, it would have stopped me dead in its tracks. Now, I went back and I looked at all the Native American, like, you know, ways to cure it. This is just a part of the research. I'm going to talk about this later. And they don't have anything in their lexicon for what I went through. They did have rheumatism and laziness, but they had nothing in the Native Americans have nothing in their lexicon for anything. Folks, this is a radicalized. This is how they do it. This is how they kill. This is how they take control of people and things. Each and every one of you, if you went through Herod Buhner's, this is why I tell you to go buy them. No matter who you are, buy the Stephen Herod Buhner books and read them. You don't have to read the high science stuff, but read about the mycoplasms and stuff like that. Each and every one of you have mycoplasms. Why? Because you go to the gym. You go to the gym and you wipe your butt with your hands. You transferred mycoplasms. You transferred one of the 162 strains of HPV. Science only fears two of the strains of HPV because they cause cancer, but there's 160 some odd other of them that are transmittable that are common. HPV is a type is just I don't it's not a mycoplasma in particular, but it's transmitted on the same principles, and they do damage to your organs by Jarvis Herxheimer, stealing nutrients, stuff like that. If you eat meat, you got all different types of parasites in your intestines, robbing you of your food, defecating in your system. Even the people who don't eat meat, you're gonna have some of these things, and it's very important for everybody to do them. But anyways, if you want to understand what I went through, just go through these symptoms and pick a quarter of them at random, and that would be my menu for the day. That would be what I have each day. The ones that I didn't have, I don't remember insomnia. Here's the thing, I don't remember. I'll tell you before I get on with this. I'll tell you before I get on with this some of my symptoms. Remember I said I went to the deli? I constantly went to the deli near me to get food. Well, the kid who was behind the deli working during the day, I went to high school with. Check this out. I went to high school with him. He was the grade above me. I went to a few of his parties. We were friends. After high school, he'd see me in the gym. We'd talk, blah, 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 blah. I want to say it's like 6 years later. He and I didn't change much. He changed his hair, maybe grew a little bit of facial hair, but he was still the same kid. I didn't remember him. He took my order for about 6 weeks and like 2 months, and I was like, wait a second, do I know this kid? Another story. One of the girls who was on the high school soccer team, a year older than me, friends with all my friends, again, partied at some of the same parties I went with. She was at the gym lifting next to me. I want to say in the power rack next to me, because I went to the gym at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. I went to the gym as early as I could and lifted. And she was lifting next to me every day for like 2 weeks, and I didn't recognize her. And she didn't change all that much. I just, like I tell you, I couldn't recognize faces. There's memories from high school of good friends. I don't remember the memories anymore. Like I can't verify if things happened. Part of my memories got erased. That's how crazy it was. Further down the line, in, I want to say, closer to October, November, maybe December, because it was cold outside. I was doing construction work, what little I could do with a friend, because he got into the real estate business, flipping houses, and we were doing some of the preliminary demo work. On the way home, I fell asleep in the truck, no seatbelt on. The truck didn't have seatbelts. I fell asleep in the truck like this, mid-conversation. I developed some type of narcolepsy. It wasn't bad, it only happened like twice. But I fell asleep like that, just head swaying, bobbing. And then when I woke up, I go, whoa. And I noticed we're in New Haven. We started in the other side of the state, and I wake up in New Haven. I'm like, whoa, how long was I out? My buddy's like, man, like a half an hour. Just like mid-conversation, just gone. And I tell you, after I go to the gym, no matter how much caffeine I drank, I was asleep. Look, if I was an entrepreneur, a homeowner, I'd lose everything. I would have lost everything. Luckily, I live with my parents, and I could just stay in bed. I don't remember what I did for about 2 months. I mean, I remember what I did, right? I had the books. I had all the Stephen Herod Buhner books. I had research, but I can't remember what movies I watched. I can't remember a TV show or a single documentary that I watched. I remembered retaining the information. I remembered fasting, but I can't remember anything that I did. Nothing. It's gone. Like months of my life are just a blip. It's crazy how aggressive it was. In my case, was strictly neurological. No joint pain at all, ever, whatsoever. I think that has, I don't know. If you want to get a further understanding of this, you can just type in brain fog. That's what it's called. That's the colloquial term for it. Brain fog from Lyme disease. And it's bad. Real bad. It's the worst when you hear of it affecting children. That's the terrible. Like literally just can't think straight. Like nothing. My brain was invaded by aliens. If y'all want the best description. I hope everybody has seen Space Jam. My coordination was gone. Central nervous system, done. You remember the aliens? They went and they infected the players. And the scene with, oh man. Space Jam. Let's see. So these are the scenes. They go in and they steal the powers. Yeah. This is it. We can. I think we can watch it. If you just so that you guys understand what happened to my central nervous system and my control. Just control. I'm a coordinated kid. I doubt it's gonna play. Or you might get buffering. But these are the aliens in their suit, right? And then they sneak off, they invade the players. See the aliens. This is almost what Lyme disease did to me. It went in, and it stole the power from the players, like, ugh! And I'm like, huh? Just totally dumbfounded. Tripping over my own feet, couldn't tie my own shoes. Oh my! When I was signing the release form at the walk-in clinic, I couldn't write my own name. My penmanship was worse than a first grader's. It was terrible. And then imagine the difference of a pro athlete going from that to like derp. Where is it? He's taking the free throw. Is that the scene? That's the funny scene. They're like, huh? What happened? Maybe that's what happened to Shaq. Anyways. He goes to shoot it. Gone. That's exactly what it was like. Just total physical and mental confusion. Gone. And it affects so many people because it goes underdiagnosed. That's the importance of this. Damn, it's an hour and 20 minutes already. Alright, listen. The leading cause of, I'm going to run through this. The leading cause of death from Lyme disease is suicide. Because the brain fog is that bad, people literally cannot operate. I remember all I would do is lay in bed, roll over from side to side. And it wasn't my own thoughts. Okay, I literally, each and every one of you, you think you're in control of your thoughts, you're only in semi-control of your thoughts. You need to learn how to truly control your thoughts. I mastered that. When I tell you there was voices in my head that were not my own, just saying, there's a way out, 24/7. Many people who go through Lyme disease, the same exact story of a dude who in my town, who was a farmer, he had Lyme disease, and there's a story. They say that he got drunk and fell off a bridge, but he tried multiple times to kill himself. It's just crazy how bad it is. And another one of these things, you could see it, homicidal rage. When I tell you, take the most angriest moment you've ever had in your life, and it doesn't compare to that. I mean, I've done cocaine a few times in my life. I'm no angel. And the strength and the vigor that comes from sniffing coke, nothing compared to that. I cannot describe the pure hatred and the violence that was put in my genetic sequence from this bug. I literally cannot describe it. Y'all, you just don't know. I hope you never know. One of the things that Lyme disease does is it's shutting down the dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, the receptors in the brain, turning switches off in my genes. It's epigenetic coding. It's a biological warfare lobotomy. They're turning switches off in my brain. It's crazy. So I pulled up this thing right here. 7 herbal medicines are capable of killing Lyme disease bacteria, according to a new lab. This was published February 21st, 2020. I don't even have to go through these. I know for a fact that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think this one. I think 6 of these are in Buhner's book, off the top of my head. I think cryptolepsis was in there. I'm not sure about this one. All of these were on his list. Already proven, blah, blah, blah. But it's, Johns Hopkins. But, whatever. In vitro CBD kills Lyme disease. That's why I brought up how much weed I smoked. And I think that it played an effect, the fact that I didn't get any joint pain. The problem is that CBD oil causes cancer. CBD cures cancer, the molecule, when it's in a natural form. CBD oil is unnatural because it needs to be balanced in its natural environment. What is its natural environment? Its natural environment is the other. I've read 180 some odd cannabinoids. That's what I've heard. I don't know when this article was written. I literally just pulled up the first one. That's the problem with articles. Anybody could write anything, and as long as it's somewhat correct, nobody flames them. Yeah, that's not good, Mr. Mission Control. I've only done it less than 5 times, and I only bought it once. Not saying I'm a saint or judging anybody, but I mean, it's worth understanding what it is. But nowadays they put fentanyl in it, so nobody should go anywhere near any drugs. But then again, you're also older than me, so that plays into a difference. If you were alive during the 80s, you could have gotten pure stuff. I mean, listen, cocaine or coca leaf should be used in treatment for the cerveza sickness because it increases oxygen absorption. And that's the problem with the cerveza sickness. Dr. Sebi even talked about cocaine. Remember, he operated out of Honduras. But look, there's a whole bunch of other cannabinoids that exist in this living plant, and they extract one of them, they feed it to you. CBD causes cancer. CBD oil causes cancer, amongst other things. Do not take CBD oil. Do not smoke CBD oil. You will get cancer. You have to take the entire plant, right? That's why I played the song right here in the intro. He says they want to separate marijuana from medicine. Do we get the lyrics? Yes. Universal acceptance of your plant. We don't deal with partial acceptance of Rastafari, and that's what Babylon does now. They want to accept parts of the plant, and you don't do that because, you don't accept part of the mango tree. You have the whole mango tree growing in your yard, and when the mango tree is on the tree, you have the tree, so you don't go, all right, let's give me the mango and cut the tree down. And basically what they're saying is the whole entire plant is in perfect natural balance to interact with the endocannabinoid system, which, by the way, is the second largest system. It goes the circulatory system, the endocannabinoid system, and then the nervous system. I believe that's the hierarchy of the largest in the complexity of the body. What was his name? The guy who owned the printing press and called it marijuana. Anyways, back in the days when they said the reason it was called marijuana, it's got like racial derogatory things behind it. The name is on the tip of my tongue, but I'm just gonna keep going. So CBD in vitro, meaning in a test tube, it kills Lyme disease. Also, CBD crosses the blood-brain barrier, where antibiotics cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, but Lyme disease can. There's one of the favorite ones that I focus on is THCV, called tetrahydrocannabivarin. For Doug Varon is the name, the guy who discovered it, and it's different than most tetrahydrocannabinol. It's different than THC. Uh, Hold on. It's different in this. It's derived from equatorial areas. Let's see. Wow, that's actually a lot. Anyways, blah 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 blah. It doesn't tell you. So it's actually the opposite of your typical THC. It will suppress appetite. It will give energy. It's a upper. The THC Varin is the upper. So what Monsanto wants to do is they want to take all the good stuff out of THC. They want to set all the things off balance. They want to spray it with chemicals, and then they want to give it to you. Nature does everything that mankind can't. It's the man-made ways, Christianity, civilization. That's why we call it Babylon. It's a pestilence. Now, let's get into the more serious stuff. I know I ranted for about an hour and a half, but hopefully people take the time to go through this. Because this, I guess you could say that this is kind of like Indiana Jones. You got to pass the 3 tests, right? You got to pass through the blades. You got to take the leap of faith. And then, what was the other one? Oh, you got to traverse the letters. There was no J in the Hebrew alphabet. Anyways. I got another joke I'm going to keep aside. Oh. So listen, like I said, it's been an hour and a half. This is where it gets good. So the people who didn't sit back and listen, there's a big F you to them. And I take pleasure in knowing that more than likely your family members are suffering. I know that sounds bad. I know I'm not the fucking... I didn't want to curse. Maybe I have or haven't. This ain't no kumbaya hippie stuff, folks. I enjoy to see people suffer. Watching people suffer makes me happy. Listen, the reason being is because I just gave you an hour and a half of pure scientific research, something that you could maybe not empathize with, but you better damn well sympathize with it. And your reward is this. See, Lyme disease is greatly undiagnosed. You could look into this. It's difficult to test. The main problem is I don't know who the hell you are, but sure, whatever. Dislike me all you want. I'm not in it for likes, bro. Your name gives you away. Listen, Lyme disease, massively undiagnosed because After the spirochetes do their damage, if they detect antibiotics or if the body fights back against them, they go into hiding and they wait for the next cytokine storm, however long it takes. So you could have Lyme disease, have been sick. Somebody says, oh, I think you have Lyme disease. A week later, you go get tested. They say, no, you don't have Lyme disease. And then a year later, the cytokine storm kicks in, and then boom, it comes back and it hits you, and you don't know what, and then you're in the hospital. That's Lyme disease, folks. Affects the central nervous system. It's terrible. So let's talk about the main or the best cure, the secret weapon. Let's talk about the secret weapon in Lyme disease. It's called Teasel. Literally, the anti-Borrelia efficacy of phytochemicals. I wonder if it talks about Teasel specifically. Dipsacus sylvestris. Basically what this does is it's able to pull the spirochetes out of hiding. Yes. Where is it? Oh, look at that. Because I do have a video on my channel that says that Teasel cures Lyme disease. And people go, no, it doesn't. Listen, folks. What Teasel does is it extracts, it pulls the spirochetes out of hiding. Listen, but that's the thing, Mr. Mission Control. You're about to see, this isn't just people's HPV problems or my Lyme disease problems. This is the problems of just about every single disease on planet Earth. We're going to talk about this in a second. It's going to get good, because here's Teasel. Yeah, you see Teasel? Teasel pulls it out. Now, Teasel is... So, deer are immune to Lyme disease. Everybody says that... Right here, you can read that. People always associate deer with Lyme disease, and that's extremely scientifically terribly wrong. Deer contributes to keep the ticks clean because the deer naturally feed. The deer naturally feed on on Teasel. Deer are immune to Lyme disease. Therefore, ticks that have used deer as a host do not contain Borrelia that can infect us. I don't know where they get this statement from. This statement is wrong. There was a study done that says that deer populations don't correlate to Lyme disease. All that deer populations would do is increase the amount of ticks that are present. How do I ban people? I put you in timeout, you little kid. Oh, man. 300 seconds? Oh, man. Hey, you know what? Since you're always here, guess what? Yo, you got the hammer, Mr. Mission Control. Hit them with the 50 if they act out of line. That feels good. That feels real good. Now I get it. Now you know why. Now you know why government's such a problem. These people just love to feel good about themselves. Shit. Look, deer are immune to Lyme because they consume Teasel. Let me show you a picture of it. This is Teasel. It's similar to a milk thistle. No, not a milk thistle. Still similar to clover, actually. I don't know if it's in the same family. This is the picture of it. And the deer eat it. I think it's a biennial. Nice flower, right? Well, look. Look at the way. Look at the way. Oh, Vanguard 300. You know what's nice, Vanguard 300? That your life is so important that you come to my channel to talk smack. See ya. High five, Mr. Mission Control. This is fun. Shit. All right, look. So this is Teasel, yeah? Why would you be mad that I'm curing ALS? I'm curing autism. Not your autism. Your autism is something special. I'm curing multiple sclerosis, acute fasciomyelitis, Zika. Curing it. Solving the mystery of it. I'm not going to cure it. That lies in the person who's sick. That lies in your hands. Anyways, this is Teasel. Now they're putting it on the invasive list. I don't know. I doubt this is some type of coordinated effort from like the ADA. No, not ADA. The Department of Agriculture. Yeah, the FDA. No, that's the Food and Drug Administration. Anyways. Look at this. By law only. I think that's what that means. This is where they're saying it's illegal to have it, right? I don't think it's a coordinated effort. I seriously think, but then again, this is the Midwestern states. This isn't Connecticut and Massachusetts we're talking about here. This isn't, I mean, California is California. This isn't like the hoity-toity, like upper New Jersey area. Maybe it is some type of coordinated effort. I was gonna go because I'm a landscaper and I despise homeowners. I think that homeowners are the scum of the earth. With their, I want my lawn fertilized and sprayed. I don't want any dandelions. I don't want any clover. It's gotta have decorative stuff. Yo. Here's a little dig at people. People think that they're free, like we have independence from England. Did you know that the idea, the whole act of having a lawn and hedges comes from England? Like the queen of the king and queen of England, how they designed their house. Everybody in America is trying to look just like that. And each and every single one of you hires landscapers, basically slaves. Like, I don't care what you say in capitalism, landscapers are slaves. Because y'all never pay us what we're worth. It's feudalism with a minimal amount of capital involved. Because y'all are scared of the 50 cow. It all comes back to that, folks. Y'all fear the 50 cow. Maybe if you had some better karma, you wouldn't fear the 50. I fear 5-0, but in a different way. Listen, chronic wasting disease. I know I ranted. You gotta have some fun. I can't. This is why I couldn't sit still in class. This is why I became a landscaper. Because I gotta have some fun. Listen. Chronic wasting disease is a newer disease out there in the Rockies for the most part. Midwest Rockies. Is an always fatal, contagious neurological disease affecting the deer species. Characteristic spongy degeneration of the brains, infected animals resulting in emaciation, abnormal behavior, loss of body functions, and death. Do you want to know what chronic wasting disease is? This is what chronic wasting disease is. They know that they're going to bring down society, so they're not going to kill all the deer. No. They're not going to kill all the deer because we have conservatory laws. They're going to poison all the deer. And guess what? If you eat chronic wasting disease, you're going to die too. So if I was you, I wouldn't eat any deer at all. Shit hit the fan situation, don't go hunting for deer. They're going to have it. Chronic wasting disease. The reason that deer could not get it, look, this could be a conspiracy. I won't rule it out to a conspiracy. I'll just say that Americans are over decadent. That's what they are. They're decadent. They want to have their way. They want to have their houses and their hedges and their decorative stuff. Okay? And so they want to get rid of the teasel. Well, the deer eat the teasel and they become immune to Lyme disease. This is something that the government largely could not control. Very difficult to do. So they just mutated it and they gave them chronic wasting disease. They know shit's going to hit the fan and they know people are going to rely on it. It's going to kill people or turn them into zombies. Now look, I'm going to go through this quickly. Autism. Okay? Autism mainly affects boys. They say that 20% of all of the childhood autism test positive for Lyme disease. Well, Lyme disease is grossly, as in 144. That's 12 times 12. Grossly underdiagnosed. I'm willing to bet that more than 50% of children with autism have either Lyme disease or the co-infections. I already told you it's passed on through breast milk and it's passed on through it's passed on the embryo during pregnancy, but Wikipedia doesn't say that. That's why. Hold on. Okay, look, the GAPS diet reverses autism. Shit. I'll get better results if you do this. But even then, it came up with Lyme disease because it's a form of fasting, GAPS, the gut and psychological syndrome. If you have or know anybody that has autism, you're not going to get the kid to fast. I promise you. The kid's not going to have the brain function to do a water fast for 10 days, to do a dry fast for 10 days. That's going to be how you cure Lyme disease, by doing it like that. So you're going to have to do a long-term 2 years on the GAPS diet. The GAPS diet, gut and psychological syndrome, it's no solid food. They use bone broth soup and juices. Reverses autism. The kids go from not being able to spell their name to being able to give public speakings, like, reading a book in front of their classmates on a podium. Y'all can look into it. There's an abundance of videos. There's no excuse. Reversing autism. They'll say like 95% of the symptoms and the effects are gone within a few months or years, depending on the case. And this also works to remove the heavy metals that are in people's brains, because what's happening is, I already told y'all, Project Daylily, unless y'all forgot, I forgot where it is, but I don't forget Project Daylily. Project Daylily talks about the biological warfare that was conducted on the troops that America loves. And there's segments in there about the biological mixtures that were in the vaccines. Look. Boom. The mycoplasmas that were in the vaccines. Folks, come on. I'm trying my best here. I'm giving everybody everything that I got. Let's look. Multiple sclerosis and autism. But hold on. Possible connection. Why is there a connection? Because multiple sclerosis is a demyelinating disease. Okay? Depending on a person's level of homeostasis, that's a word for balance, a scientific word for balance, depends on what they get. Has nothing to do with genetics. But these... man. You know that they assassinate doctors who talk about this, right? So it's on you, each and every one of you listening, unless you're a doctor. It's your responsibility to spread this out until every single citizen in the world calls out these doctors for not doing it. And then the doctors will have to say, wow, these results are staggering. And there's even doctors talking about it, and they're still alive for now. Okay? For now. Lyme disease and ALS. Guess what? All you assholes dumping ice on yourself? Maybe that's what ALS stands for. Asshole. Y'all want to know another disease? Acute flaccid myelitis. That's another one that they did. Same exact thing. You want to know another disease that they did? Zika virus. Same exact thing. It's in a different family though. This one says Slaveridae. The other one is Burgdorferi. Ah! That's why I love Alex Jones. Oh, dude, I don't need to be careful. I love when Alex Jones just goes fucking ape and just starts literally like a gorilla just banging on the desk. You mean to tell me that you're not fucking with kids, Bravo? Eddie Bravo, I'll fucking kill you. Oh, so anyways, this is why I get pissed off. Because I did the breakthroughs in diabetes video and it got 6 views. Guess what? I know that one of the views was from me. I know one of the views was from Mr. Mission Control. I know where 2 of the other views came from. One of them might have been me on my other account or Mr. Mission Control on his other account. So, who's not watching these videos? 160 subscribers? Y'all don't want to y'all don't want to fix the world's problems. Y'all want money. I got $1 trillion worth of cures. I got fucking $10 trillion worth of medical cures. Fucking a quadrillion dollars. What the fuck more do you people want? So anyways, I ended up on probation. During the time of probation, I couldn't smoke weed. And my car is unregistered and uninsured. It's been like that shit for like 8 years now. But with me being on probation, I didn't want to be a felon. So when I would have to go, listen, for a breach of peace, because I had weed in my system, I had to go to probation bi-weekly. I had to go to drug addiction classes weekly. I had to go to community classes weekly for like 3 months. So I would drive my mom's car because I was paranoid of getting, I don't care about shadow banned. I'm talking about my own users, my own people who don't support me. If I talk about money or I talk about something crazy, they like it. But when it comes to something real, something tangible, actually changing the world, they don't care. I had this playlist up and it had like 30 videos up there. I don't know what happened to it. It was called Reggae Mellitus for the song right here, Peter Tosh, Reggae Mellitus. Because what happened was, see, I don't really listen to reggae music, or I used to listen to reggae music. But I think the first reggae I ever listened to, I guess you could call it ska, more or less. Ska is characterized by, a drummer, a bass line, and then the guitarist just going bing, 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 bing. That's all ska is. It's so basic. But man, the music's good. So I would listen to like Sublime, Pepper, OAR, and yeah, I had some Bob Marley, some Damian Marley, this, that, and the third. But around the year of like 2000s, late 90s, in the whole 2000 era, it was all like dance hall and raga. I didn't like that stuff. I don't know if y'all ever seen Jamaican daggering, the dance hall stuff. Yo, that stuff's crazy. But listen, I was driving my mom's car and she had XM radio, so I would turn on joint radio, and I started hearing new songs, right? And so I caught the reggae mellitus, right? And I'll put it up on a playlist. I'm making a playlist. I got let me see. This is the song. I'll put it. I'll redo the reggae mellitus. But he's like, he went to the doctor. He said something was wrong with him, and he said, "Son, you got reggae mellitus." He's like, "What?" Oh man, y'all don't know. Anyways, Mr. Mission Control. I caught reggae mellitus because it was like a new group of people, and these are my new favorite artists right now. I know for a fact it was this song right now by Agent Sasko. But Agent Sasko doesn't smoke weed, so he's kind of whack. You see, because he's got his head shaved. And I heard the song "I Can" by Chronix, and I heard the song. One of the songs by Kabaka Pyramid was I think it was "Never Gonna Be a Slave," and he says he'd rather be a fruit seller than a teller in the Bank of Jamaica. Then he says, "Bankrupt Jamaica," and I said, "Hell yeah." Not anything against Jamaican people. We're talking about shutting down the banks, people. And then I caught reggae mellitus because it was a new wave of music, and I just went crazy. And to show y'all, like literally, the reason I'm talking about this now is because during that whole time, I want to say it took me 18 months to get back to a normal sleeping schedule, have normal like if I was talking to somebody, I wouldn't start crying, but my mouth would start frowning uncontrollably. Like I couldn't control my emotions. I don't know if I went over this, but they turned off serotonin receptors and all that stuff in my brain. So, just this is some of I would have a playlist right here. This is my iTunes, and I would just run it up on these songs. And these were the songs that I was listening to day in and day out to keep me from killing my boss. And these was the playlists. Like literally, I would go through, I'd add songs and delete songs. 200 songs, 14 hours and 30 minutes. I'd have to bring 2 iPods with me because I use the old, the ones with the steel casing, the fat ones. And I don't listen to that much Bob Marley. So I got all the other artists up here. And it's the revival. It's just this new. I got the classics too. And I'm gonna put a playlist up there. It's gonna be called Ragascaping. It's the music I listened to when I was landscaping. And one of the thing inherent in reggae music or Rastafarianism is being a vegan, for the most part. And the reason that's important that I talk about it, you shouldn't be eating meat. This is why I recovered so easily. Because I wasn't eating meat, and if you eat meat, you're taking on so many mycoplasmas and so many parasites. It's not worth it. You would have to to eat like if you eat meat for a few days, you have to dry fast for another 20 days after you eat meat just to be able to eat meat again. You shouldn't be eating meat, folks. Right? I don't drink alcohol. I haven't done it since 2013. Only most the newer Rasta say don't drink alcohol because it's anaerobic, it's fermented, acidic, cause cancer. I'll get into that another day. Don't eat fish, don't eat none of that stuff. Especially don't eat sushi. Just because they flash freeze it doesn't mean that they kill the parasites in it. But it's like, look,